Hi there, it's the Way Show, and welcome to another Sunday's edition. My name is Wole. It's so nice to be with you again today. And how's your week been? How was your week? Because it's a new week today, Sunday. Um, like I always say on this program, you know the drill. If it's the first time you're watching this program, do us a favor, just subscribe to us. Like all our previous editions, including this one you're watching, obviously. And make sure you follow us on Instagram. It's the Way Show. That's what we call on Instagram. So it's the way dot the dot way dot show. Follow us on Instagram and as well as YouTube. We always come to you live every Sunday and at about this time, 8 o'clock UK time. So it's nice to be with you today on this show. I've got another very special guest. We're going to be talking quite a lot about energy today. And at some point in time, we'll also be talking about football because the person I've got today is not just a market development expert, is not just a renewable energy expert. He's also a lover of sports and indeed football. So we'll be touching on that at some point. So join me in welcoming Lande Abudu, who is the Executive Secretary of the Renewable Energy Association of of Nigeria. So Lande, thank you for joining us on this show. I know it's not been a
Thank you for having me.
particularly bright evening, and obviously we're going to talk about that later. But all the same, thank you for
Much
joining us on the
later.
show. Talk about that much
Thank you
later.
very much.
Thanks for joining us on the show. Um, so Lande, my obvious question is this:
Mm.
Renewable Energy Association of Nigeria. What's that all about? What's that organization all about? One, and what do you guys hope to achieve by setting up this organization? And what have you achieved so far?
So three very pertinent questions. So the renewable energy, so they all came together and it's private sector led so that we can sort of work with the government and be the liaison to government to try and ensure that we have a sustainable economy. And what do we mean by sustainable economy? We know the energy access problem in Nigeria, and how do we fix it? So renewable energy technology is relatively new. So people were working in silos in the space, and they all came together and said, look, we're probably better off working together in an association so we can achieve lots of great things. So our vision is to support government in ensuring that there's sustainable development, basically green economy. So anything renewable, we promote it, we advocate for it, and we help our members in the space in terms of business development and all the extras that they need. So essentially, that's what the association is about.
Hmm. In 2013, if I'm very correct, ECOWAS heads of government adopted a policy, the EREP, that's the ECOWAS Renewable Energy Policy, and that is to increase the
Yeah.
share of renewable energy in the region, the West African region. Talking about
Yeah.
electricity mix to about 35% in 2020. How close or how
Mm.
far away are we to this goal?
So that is a regional goal, which then obviously cascades down to the national level. But in terms of Nigeria itself, federal government has what we call the Vision 30-30-30, and that's to achieve 30 gig of generation by 2030, making sure that renewable energy is 30% of the mix. How far are we along that way? There's still a bit of a way to go, but we have reached around 17%, I'd say. So it's a work in progress. We're working hard, and that's part of what the association do. We need to plug it, and we need to make sure
Mhm.
members are in the forefront of all the activities to ensure that we do hit that target.
When you say members now, exactly
Yeah.
who are you referring to? What part of the industry in Nigeria are you referring to?
Renewable energy developers. So our members are across board. hugely solar for obvious reasons. We have a lot of sun in Nigeria. So they're hugely solar. There's biomass, there's waste to energy. So we have just slightly over 100 members, and they're all working in the renewable energy space in some form of the value chain or the other. So it could be distribution. Some are doing solar home systems standalone. Some are doing mini grids, but essentially they're all renewable energy developers.
Okay. So, and why has it taken so long for us to, realize that we've got quite a lot of renewable energy that we've not really tapped? We've relied so much on coal in the past. Oil is something totally on another level in Nigeria and indeed Africa. We
Yeah.
rely so much on that. So why has it taken us so long for us to tap into all this?
I think to say it's taken long, it's a combination of things. So
Mm,
awareness needs to increase, but first of all, it's the gap. So initially, I'm sure growing up, a lot of people that grew up in Nigeria, you know that there was no huge deal with the then NEPA. People tended to have enough hours of light and there was no real problem. But as population grew, as urbanization increased, I think that's where we start to see the problem. And again, the grid gets more and more tired over time. Maintenance has not been 100% and upkeep of it. So the grid is getting tired, population is growing, demand is growing for electricity. We have mobile phones where we didn't before, and all manner of usage has increased. So I think that's why it's taken long, if that's the phrase I'll use. So now it's a case of, look, we have this problem. There's over 40% of Nigerians without access to energy. What do we do about it? And the obvious solution will be renewable energy.
So almost 40%, would that obviously, um, the companies, the economic expansion itself in Africa and indeed in Nigeria, would they also count for that 40%? I mean, we're talking about
Yeah.
industries, that heavily rely on energy itself to do whatever they want to do. Would that be part of the 40%?
Absolutely. It is part of the 40%, sadly. So we're looking at almost, 100 million Nigerians without access to energy, if you look at the
Mm.
figures in another way. So yes, it does include households and it does include commercial and industry. But what's shocking is urban is about 81% penetration of electricity, whereas in the rural areas it's slightly less than 30%. So you can imagine that for them, life is completely different. So that's where a lot of energy has to go in to make sure there's increased rural electrification, and of course to then support the urban one as we go along.
So how have you guys, REAN, been able to get your message across to Nigerians, especially people in the rural area, who obviously will see this as something entirely new? They'll be used to um, pole with NEPA lines going across from, houses to houses on the road, and then you're talking now all of a sudden about renewable energy. I mean, has that been more of a culture shock to them, or um, is it something they need to worry about? And how have you been able to like spread the message to them to say, this is probably the way forward?
So it's a combination of different things. I'd say the proof of the pudding is in the eating. So rather than speak about it all the time, and the demographic we're talking about, they're not on Instagram, they're not on YouTube, so you can't necessarily reach them through the digital channels. So it's literally about going there and deploying. So sometimes you'll find that members do a pilot and they engage with the community, and I think that's what's key. It's engaging with the community, especially for instance, for mini grids. If you don't engage with the community, you're already starting up on the back foot. So creating awareness is more like engaging with them directly and going into their communities and showing them that this works. And trust me, it's really different to what you and I are used to. You're going somewhere that they literally have candle wicks or they're using kerosene. They've never seen electric switch. So it's not a hard sell, but it has to be very practical.
And so far has it been? How have they received it? Like you said, they're not on social media. When you go to meet them
Yeah.
about and talk to them about renewable energy, especially those in the rural area, and in some instances, those in the cities, in the mega cities, how's that been for them?
It's been, I'd say, mostly positive. The only part that, and I don't want to say negative, everything takes time, change takes time, and essentially also affordability. So those are all the things that we need to work on to make sure that it's not too expensive, because obviously their livelihoods, they're spending, and their disposable income is not huge. But acceptability is fantastic. If it transforms your life, you're not going to say no to it. So, I mean, for instance, we had a member fit in some solar home systems in a village in Kano, in a community in Kano. And this is a farmer that used to sleep outside his house because he didn't want anybody stealing his livestock. But as soon as he had those 4 LED lamps, he put one outside his front door and essentially started sleeping in the room. And he was happy to tell us when we went back to check, because we do monitoring and evaluating. So, what has been the impact on your life? And he says, look, I don't sleep outside anymore. Mosquitoes don't bite me because I stay inside, because there's a light that lets people around know if there's an imposter. So things like that, as I said, proof of the pudding is in the eating. Once they see it practically, it's not a hard sell.
True. So I want to take us back now to the word itself, renewable energy. When you talk about that, what comes to mind will probably be, I've got solar panels up on my rooftop, and I've got an inverter
Okay.
that will probably just charge it up, and when NEPA do their magic, I just convert it to my renewable energy. Um, that is it to a layman. Is there anything more to renewable energy than what I've said?
Well, there is essentially in the value chain, there's so much more, but to the consumer, what do you want to know? You want to know if I get this solar panel or I get these briquettes to have clean cooking, will it work? On that level, that's all there is. But the technology is deeper than that. If you're doing, for instance, we now have mobile money payments. So there's technology involved in money payments, and it's going to go via their phones. But again, the consumer doesn't need to disturb themselves with all the finer details. Overview is generally, look, it's either going to be one technology or the other. Is it solar? Is it wind? And this is the offering we have for your needs, having done an energy audit, and that's essentially, I'd say, how it works, really.
Mm.
But on our part, we think to ourselves, for every solar home system that you put in a community, you're potentially influencing 5,000 lives, creation of jobs, children can go to school, study for longer. So it's that transformational effect that we need to look at and think this is why renewable energy makes sense. Because it's a fast deployment. Are we going to get grid into, some areas that we can't even get a car to, that you have to literally go by boat or canoe? No, we're not going to get the grid to that in the next 10 years. And there's no point looking for trillions of naira to invest in something that's going to take a while. You can quickly deploy solar home systems. As we speak, we can say, oh, bring them in. In the next 2 weeks, you can empower a community of 20,000. There's capacity.
One of the questions we got when we said we were going to bring you on to talk about renewable energy was from
Mm.
one of our followers on Instagram that asked the question, and I think it's really valid.
Okay.
Said something about it's all well and good for you guys to champion renewable energy, but when you have a government that would not necessarily back it due to the issues of the so-called big people who are also
Mm.
powerful people in the world of oil and gas. So how easy is it for the government to enable a law, um, backing
Mm.
up renewable energy in Nigeria, one, and two, how do you hope to break that cartels, as it is, the oil cartel that they believe first and foremost that this is where we make our money from, oil and gas, and now
Mm.
you're talking about renewable energy. How easy is it to break that hold, and break into that hold and obviously turn people to renewable energy itself?
Okay, so those are good questions. Initially, what obtains is if it's easy to use fossil fuels, then you go ahead. But the world is changing, and I'll touch on that again regarding COVID and the whole pandemic, which has, see how oil prices crashed, and see that the whole world is very, very much committed to a green recovery. We literally don't have a choice. So we need to mitigate against this kind of thing happening again. So what are the alternatives? Also feel reliant and
Okay, we seem
I
to
already recognition of the need to move into
be having some
cleaner
problems. Bear with us.
energy, and it's all tied into us. Okay.
Sorry, we're just having some interruptions due to obviously the network. So I'm just trying to
Okay.
apologize to our viewers. So if you can continue, Lande, sorry.
Okay, so yeah, so as I was saying that it's not government is doing their own little part. They've come up with that vision, so that means they're committed to at least recognizing that clean energy must be where we make a move to. And the overall goal is we're signed up to the Sustainable Development Goals. Number 7 of that is universal access to clean, reliable energy. So if we're saying that we're part of the UN and we want to achieve this, then as a nation, we are responsible and to make sure that we achieve that. So it's not like a choice anymore. We are signed up to it globally that we are going to try and achieve this by 2030.
Can clean energy really replace fossil fuels, and what have you? Can I know everyone is talking about these SDG goals, and we're signed up to different
Mhm.
policies, different
Yeah.
agreements all over the world, in Africa, internationally, and
Mhm.
all that. But can it really, clean energy, replace fossil fuels?
100%. There's no reason why not. It's about making sure that there's the will to replace them. And it happens gradually. We move from probably 0% to 17% where we are now. Other countries like Germany have gone very far in renewable energy technologies. Costa Rica is like 90 something percent renewable energy generation. So it's happening around the world. And we will have to, look at the cost of fuel has gone up. So is it attractive to continue to use it? Is it clean? So it is achievable, but there has to be the enabling environment. Government has to do their part. Associations such like ours have to do our part, and the citizenry has to do their part. So it's not one person or one body working on their own. We all have to be committed to doing it. Financial institutions are already, the European International Bank has already said that they're going to stop funding of any businesses that are tied to fossil fuels. So there's global energy change already, and you have to roll with it or be left out.
Um, would renewable energy be cheaper when it fully comes on board in Nigeria and indeed Africa? Because why I've asked this question is even here that we are in England, some people still find it very difficult when they see different providers come in, obviously small scale ones that's different from British Gas and
Yeah.
what have you, and they come in and say, yeah, we're 100% renewable energy, and we can bring your price lower than what you're paying, for example, British Gas. And when you have a look at it, you sometimes find it's more expensive than what you pay. So can it really be cheaper, especially to people in Nigeria?
Yeah, the prices have already gone down in a decade or more, just under a decade. The prices have already gone down maybe like 70%. So the technology is getting cheaper, definitely, and it getting to the consumer is also getting cheaper. Part of our work is also to liaise with government and tell them, look, for the consumer, we need it to be a certain price. And if you're going to look at it, how do you give an enabling environment? So there's got to be maybe waivers, duty tariff waivers, tax waivers, all those kind of things that will make it easier to set up the business and even then morph into manufacturing. So there's local manufacturing, which we're a big champion of, and we've just reviewed the local content stuff. And there is a renewable energy bill in the works, which is going to address all of this stuff. So yes, it can be, and we continue to work towards it.
And with all these renewable energy companies, would they be mostly local companies, Nigerian-based companies, or are they going to is the market open to people from outside Nigeria and indeed Africa to come in and obviously invest in renewable energy?
Yeah. The market is open to everybody, but as a nation, what do we really want to achieve? We would like our own people to excel at doing what we need and to be able to deploy to their own people. So ultimately, I'd say we generally, as in government, Nigeria, is committed to local content improvement. So recently, I think CBN has released part of the economic sustainability plan. They've released a $2 billion facility for solar intervention. So the idea is to power 5 million solar connections into 5 million households. And part of this, one of the conditions to be able to access the facility is that you have to have 70% local content. So it's a gradual thing. And what they want to do is encourage the manufacturing sector, encourage local employment, job creation, and all the rest of it. So it's open to everybody. I mean, globalization is not something we can run away from. However, there must be a very large percentage of Nigerians benefiting from the technologies and the business.
And you keep mentioning technology. Are we right for that kind of technology in Nigeria? And do we have it? Are we right for it? And do we have it to start with in Nigeria to be able to provide that much of renewable energy to the 40% you mentioned at the beginning of the show?
Yeah. So yes, we are definitely right. There's no reason why we can't do it. And we recently held a survey among members. So for this 5 million solar connection initiative already, members can pretty much within the next year deploy, within from now till year, the capacity at least 2 million of those 5 million solar connections. So yes, we are ready, and that's just REAN members. Yes, I know that they're doing mostly the stuff in the space, in the renewable energy space. But we just have to prepare properly and have the strategies to make it happen.
Okay. All right. We will be going on a short break. And when we come back, I want to ask you a question. The question I'm going to ask is, what's the difference between renewable energy and nuclear energy? And that's the basic question. Welcome back to the show, and we've been talking about renewable energy since 8 o'clock at the start of the show, and I have Lande Abudu, who is the Executive Secretary of the Renewable Energy Association of Nigeria. We've obviously talked about renewable energy so far, and before we went on a break, my question was to Lande to give us the difference between renewable energy and obviously a nuclear energy to find out what the difference is exactly. Lande.
Having a little trouble.
Oh, can you? Hi, Lande, can you hear me? We'll try and reestablish connection with Lande for to continue the show. So far we've been obviously talking about renewable energy and how it affects not just Nigeria but the West African sub-region and indeed Africa, because renewable energy is something
Can you hear me?
totally new. Yes, Lande, can you hear us? Hello, can you hear us?
Oops.
Can you
I
hear
can.
us?
It seems like the connection is bad.
Okay, we will try. We'll just keep trying to get connected back to Lande.
Not
If you can
really.
hear
Not
me,
very well. Just about.
not very well. Just about. Okay. We'll try and re-establish connection with Lande and Lagos, Nigeria, obviously. Like I said, we've been talking about renewable energy and how it affects not only Nigeria but West Africa and indeed Africa. So far, Lande has been giving us an insight into what our organizations actually doing, preparing the ground for solar, not just solar power, but renewable energy itself, taking over from our over dependence on oil and gas, so to say. Obviously, Nigeria's moved from coal to oil and now trying to, as much as possible, move into renewable energy, which is obviously something in the pipeline. So we will try as much as possible to re-establish contact with London because this is very interesting. It is interesting because as it is, power, energy is something which is really not anything to write home about at the moment in Nigeria and indeed most of our African countries. Why? Because of our over reliance on oil itself. And quite recently, the issue of the removal of oil subsidy in Nigeria has led to a showdown between the Nigerian government itself and the labor organizations. And we're talking about TUC, Trade Union Congress, and the NLC, the Nigerian Labour Congress in Nigeria. But I've got some. While we're trying to re-establish contact with Lande in Nigeria, obviously want to say thank you to you that have been making comments on the show, and thank you to Bright Onwa who says the Way Show on Sunday is my favorite show. Thank you for saying that. Sam Sylvester saying it's another Super Sunday. Yeah, thank you. Omotayo, funny, happy Sunday, everyone. So if you've got questions on renewable energy, what it means to you, what you would like to know about it, please feel free and drop your comments, your questions, so we can just pass it through to Lande while we try to reestablish contact with Thank you for joining us, Nora and Gozi Felix. Hello, my people. You said Omotai Fani, thank you for also joining us. Please keep those questions coming. If you've got any questions on energy as it affects you, or about the three letters, three magic letters, oil, which obviously it's a massive thing in Nigeria because of our dependence on that commodity. So please, if you've got any questions, now's the time. Ask the question, and we will pass it on to Lande as soon as we reconnect. Hello, Lande. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, I can hear
Yeah,
you now. Can you hear
good.
me?
Yes, loud and
Yeah.
clear.
Technology, technology.
Exactly, technology. What would we do without it? Yeah, so before we went on break, Landy, I asked a question about the difference between nuclear energy and renewable energy. Are they the same or is that a massive difference?
Between nuclear energy, nuclear is renewable-ish. That's what.
Hmm.
So they are different. But renewable we tend to use interchangeably with clean. So I think that's where the difference is that the environmental damage is less and the potential to damage the environment is also less. So nuclear is not renewable in the same way.
Hmm. So there's been so much talk about um, climate change. Why some people do believe strongly about climate change, others don't. Okay,
Mhm.
so can renewable energy actually help with climate change?
Oh yeah, that's exactly what would help with climate change because then we're replenishing what we're using. So it's almost a travesty to not have solar power in Nigeria because apart from the Middle East, I think we have the second highest irradiation metric. So the sun is there in the north and it is hot. So there's no reason not to. There's literally nothing. So yes, there's the panels, but then we continue to work on how best to get panels that are either degradable or will last for so long. So I mean, yes, renewable energy can help against climate change because we're not using the same resources in the same way. You know, we're using cleaner stuff. If you're going to do biomass or waste to energy, it is organic waste that's going to end up in the landfill anyway. So then we take it out rather than let it just blow the methane into the air. We recycle it.
Mm.
So it
In
can
other
be a
in other words, it would not cause pollution or anything like that.
I mean, when we say it will not cause pollution, it's not in the same way as fossil fuels. It will, I don't want to say and be put on the spot and say it will never cause pollution because there's some element of, so for instance, the batteries. So we have lead acid batteries. After a 10-year span of a solar panel, what then happens to the battery? It has the potential to cause pollution if you don't get rid of it the right way. But there are ways to get rid of it and properly recycle batteries and put it in get rid of the acid in a responsible way.
Your organization obviously set goals for itself, and
Yeah.
obviously ambitious goals itself. For example, in Germany, it is said by 2050, 80% of the energy is going to be renewable, obviously.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, I know we're just starting from the scratch, and we set goals for ourselves, obviously, with the protocols signed by the head of states in ECOWAS.
Yeah.
Have we Do we have goals set for ourselves, to achieve? Um, we're not saying 2050 because I know that probably wouldn't be possible, obviously,
Mm,
because we're not technologically advanced as countries like Germany.
mhm.
Looking at it and your organization itself, the goals you set for yourself, what do you think will be um, the proper targets? 2030, 2040, 2050, and you know, what have you?
So we have the goals, as a nation, we have Vision 30-30-30. So we want renewable energy to form 30% of the energy mix. At the moment, it forms 17%. So the deficit in a decade that we need to make up is around 13%. Is it doable? I believe so, 100%. That's why I'm still at the Renewable Energy Association because we need to change our members to make sure that we all get that goal. So the government has said 30%. At REAN, we have said to ourselves, we need to even push further. We are going to try and contribute to strategies, and that's our vision, that will make sure we achieve 40% of renewables. So we're even more ambitious than government. So you can see that we have even more work on our plate because if government is saying 30% and we want to do 10% more, there's work to do and there's no time to waste. We just keep on plugging and making sure that we reach the places that don't have energy access and with renewables. And it covers clean cooking as well, because we tend to forget that it's not just our electricity needs, it's also other needs in terms of even industrial needs and also clean cooking. There's a lot of wood cooking with firewood, cooking with charcoal, all those unhealthy things. That's all going to add to the mix. So yes, there's electricity. Then we have the goals to make sure that we properly um, cook as well. Apart from all our fuel needs, basically should be clean.
Again, I want to go back to the sensitization and um, so to say marketing renewable energy to people in the rural areas and
Yeah.
sometimes again in the cities. I grew up in Nigeria, and back in the days, I remember my grandma used to say something like, "If you want to if you want to cook something good, it has to be with firewood, because that brings out the taste,
Yes.
And I'm sure there's quite a lot of people in the villages that still are stuck in that idea that I can't cook with gas, I can't cook with kerosene. If I just need to cook with firewood to make it
Yeah.
tasty. What do you do with those people?
Well, I always say be realistic and practical. There's going to be 100% of people in the rural areas. 70% you can convince. There's going to be a top 2% that, like your grandma, likes jollof rice that has that charred smell, and there's
Yeah.
not much you can do. We just want
Mm.
to reduce it. And trust me, grandmas the world over will start seeing that actually, you know what? That lady, she's been cooking with this new clean cooking stove and she doesn't cough anymore. She doesn't go to the doctors to have, mucus removed from her throat every so often. She's putting on weight because she looks healthier and stuff like that. So that convinces people. And then you start forgetting the taste. I mean, we all used to say then, so many people will say, oh, I can't eat stew that's second day. Even me, I say, I don't like rice that's in the fridge. Do I eat it now when I have work every day? Yes, sure I do. And I've forgotten what the other thing tastes like.
So you've talked about Nigeria obviously having it's always sunny, especially in the northern part of Nigeria, which is could be so hot at sometimes, and some season itself. Um, Aside from the sun itself, energy gathered from the sun, renewable. Is your organization also looking into wind turbines? Probably. I know when I take my family on trips down the seaside in Europe or what have you, we see looking at the sea itself or the ocean, we see wind turbines. Just down there where my kids probably ask me, "What's that for?" And I try to explain to them this is wind turbine generates energy and what have you. Nigeria's, especially the southern part of Nigeria, it's it's like filled with the ocean, what have you, the Atlantic Ocean and all. Are we also looking at tapping energy from the sea outside the sun?
Yes, we are. So I don't want to say sea, just hydropower overall. So this,
Mhm.
as I said, putting 30% of renewables in the energy mix, it actually breaks it down. What percentage will be solar? Solar taking the highest percentage. What percentage will be wind? What percentage will be hydro? And we have our dams watering hydro energy. So there's that to tap into. Some of these technologies also are expensive. Others like wind, it seems like yes, wind sounds really cool. Get turbines up. I mean, everybody has wind, but the technology is actually so intricate that it doesn't work everywhere. So, for instance, we have a pilot in, not we as my members, but there's a wind farm that's being developed in Katsina. I mean, long story short, it's been for a while, and that's probably where they've found the most wind that they can generate because you need a huge amount of area and you need all sorts of technical stuff for wind that can work. So onshore wind is probably the best, but it might not be the best solution for Nigeria. So there's a small percentage of that that's going to be put in the energy mix, but I don't think it's going to be huge because the technology simply can't be sustained in our environment. It's not as easy as other countries.
So would your organization also be directly involved with what generation of it, distribution, and also regulating prices to the consumers themselves? So is it going to be like as it is now with NEPA? And you have all
Mm.
the discos and all.
So no, we aren't, as an association, involved in pricing or regulatory in any shape or form. We are 100% private sector led. So we are just basically the liaison. So like NERC, that's the regulatory body for electricity, NESRIA, regulatory for battery. We work
Mm.
closely with them. They're our best friends, essentially. So we're feeding them back and saying this is what members have seen in the when once they're deploying, these are the mistakes that we think can be fixed. These are the gaps identified, and all of it together. We work with the stakeholders, generally Rural Electrification Agency, and we're all working together right now with support from NESG to get a robust renewable energy bill. So that will tackle the technologies part of it, the financial, the admin, the regulatory. Because at the end of it all, what do we want? We want to convince people that it works. We don't want people being skeptical. So standardization is also important, all those things. We don't want substandard products coming in. We want to empower the local communities. All of those are all being discussed under this renewable energy bill.
That's brilliant. So there's another time I came across when I was obviously researching about renewable energy, and that's green hydrogen. And I know the Chinese are also massively thinking about that, working on that. The Australians are also being in the forefront of,
Mm-hmm.
working on
Green
green energy, hydrogen.
hydrogen.
What is green hydrogen to those who are watching us? And would that also be like a form of renewable energy, or can it be a substitute to renewable energy?
Yeah, it simply is another form of renewable energy. But to be honest, let's concentrate on the ones that we can work on and
Well,
develop those first. Even in the other countries that are way ahead of us in terms of renewable energy technologies, it's a work in progress for them. I know there's a lot going on in France. I know Poland recently started their form of it. Russia is also taking the lead. But in terms of a technology, and right now it's a little bit expensive and it's a bit experimental. So it is there as a possibility for another thing, but for us as Nigeria, I think we should battle with the ones we have now that we have easy access to and work to make them the best possible rather than start looking for this extra technology that might or might not be easy
well,
to.
okay. And what's your association's relationship with ARENA is? I mean, the International Renewable Energy Agency. Are you part of it? And what kind of assistance do you get from them, especially as we are moving into the next steps of renewable energy in Nigeria?
Yeah, so we as REAN are not members of IRENA, but Nigeria is a member of IRENA. So by virtue of being a member country of IRENA, that's where the collaborations come in. And IRENA, they have a lot of resources. We work with a lot of people who then attend their energy events. They invite us to stuff like that. So that's the relationship more so than REAN being a member. Because we're private sector, it's countries that are members.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So, can I ask some very tricky question, especially regards to oil itself? Because I know you're into renewable energy, but there's no way we can
Yeah.
talk about this without mentioning oil, because it's more
Mm-hmm.
like the bedrock of Nigerian society. Recently, the government itself did what other governments not succeeded to do, remove subsidy on oil, which was obviously met with stiff resistance from the labor unions and obviously Nigerians. In your opinion, and I know I'm asking you this question as a private person, uh,
Mm-hmm.
is it the right time to do that, especially with the COVID and everything going on?
I mean, I would have loved to be politically correct and dance around the question, but no, it is not the right time.
Hmm,
It seems totally insensitive. This is a time that we know that we're going into a global recession. That's the truth.
hmm,
Our GDP is contracted by about 6% and expected to maybe even be more. There's hardship everywhere, job losses, unemployment, ill health, and it is not the right time. There never is
hmm.
a right time necessarily, but this is like the most insensitive time. You don't pile on problems for your citizenry when they're already grappling with so much.
It's
So
true.
yeah.
But do you see just like you said, there's never a right time, but is that a way forward for Nigeria? I mean, to get rid of subsidy at some point?
That's a tough one because I read up about it. I
Mm,
chat about this. I've talked to economists, and I'm no economist, but I think ultimately we have to accept that it has to go. Ultimately, the finer points would probably take longer than our show today. So I mean, let me concentrate on renewable energy and sort of park that for another day. But I think it's
sure.
coming in its own way. But if we have a choice as well, then there's an alternative. So it's not necessarily like the be all and end all. And then
Hmm.
we need to, because even for me, government has to diversify. Subsidy or no subsidy, you can't have 80% of your revenue generated by one source. We've got
Sure.
to think of another way to build up the country. There's just got to be, you know.
Okay, so we're just going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we talk a little bit about renewable energy, and we talk about your other passion.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us. And just before we went on the break, we had and we still have Lande Abudu, who is the executive secretary of the Renewable Energy Association of Nigeria. She's been talking to us today about renewable energy itself. We talked a little bit about oil and obviously subsidy in Nigeria, subsidy issue in Nigeria. So we will be taking Lande on just a few bits of what we've been saying, obviously renewable energy, and then we will move to another passion of ours. So, but the quick question, we've got a question now on the comments. So I'm just going to take questions from Sandra Sylvester, who said, "How cheap is this? That's renewable energy, and how affordable is it?" Um, if Lande can hear us, I think Lande mentioned that it's obviously going to be cheaper than what we have at the moment. When we say we, we're talking about Nigerians now, because this show is zeroing in on Nigeria itself. So if
Yeah,
Lande can hear us, when she comes back on,
yeah.
we're going to ask the question itself.
I can hear you.
Oh, okay, Lande, you're there. So Sandra Sylvester said,
Yeah, I can
our
hear
yeah, said how cheap is this and how affordable is it for for people? And just to add to that, my question now is,
you. Yeah.
every person that's going to be coming in as a player, as a major player in this industry, will be obviously business
Hmm.
people, businessmen and women, with profit at the back of their mind. So again, how cheap is this going to be? Is it going to be a situation where Um, it will be so unaffordable because the businessman wants to make a profit. Uh, so the poor man, so to say, or the common man, let me use that word again, will not be able to afford it.
No, no, it's not that, and we shouldn't look at it that way. Every
Mm,
service, you deserve to get back some revenue for it, for investing in it. So if
mm,
you're a businessman and you're offering solar solutions, yes, you should make money. But at the same time, we have members who are working as a social enterprise, so they're giving value extra aside from just profit making. So that's not always the primary aim. And we're almost going to reach price parity with the grid anyway. You'll know recently that tariffs were increased by most
mhm,
discos, almost
mhm,
double. So
mhm.
yes, there's a small delay in implementing those, but it's going to come anytime soon. So in terms of solar technology, for instance, it varies depending on the need. So do you want to power 5 air conditioners, 3 water heaters, and all the rest of it, and have like 10 inverters? Well, then you pay accordingly, just like you would with grid electricity as well. So it's on scale. But then you have a 90-watt system that you're paying perhaps 4,000 naira a month, and you can power your fan, you can power your television, you can charge your mobile phone, and actually have a laptop. So it varies depending on the need, and depending on the actual solution.
And your investors, obviously the members, have they got that
Yeah.
assurance from the government, especially sovereign guarantees, risk mitigation options, when they invest in this, especially, you know, there won't be another government coming to say, well, yeah, no, no, that was before, that was with that previous government, so we're going to stop this now, what have you. Is it something you guys have have talked about? And again, is there a law backing this? Because obviously we know where we're from. One government backs this
Yeah.
policy or this bright idea, the next government says no, out of the window.
Yeah, so exactly. Business continuity is one of the things I'm saying we need to address with the renewable energy bill, encouraging investment, be either foreign or local. So, how do you protect? How do you mitigate risk? Those are big, big issues that we try and put some things in place in terms of policy, in terms of support. So, for instance, this CBN facility that I said is the intervention for solar facility. There's going to be, without saying the specifics, there's going to be stuff put in place to protect the investor and sort of mitigate a bit of risk that will give comfort and make people want to come and invest. So you have to give incentives one way or the other to ensure that somebody, wants to come and invest. And the truth is, it depends. If I'm risk averse, the next person, we wouldn't have iPhones, we wouldn't have stuff like that if somebody didn't have the guts to just go out and disrupt. So there's going to be a little bit of that as well, but government also has the responsibility and owes them to try and protect them. So it's a bit of both. So the renewable energy bill hopefully will address, not hopefully, when it's ready, will address those kinds of issues. So we want to plug those gaps and make sure that it is attractive for people to come in.
And aside from CBN, are some other financial institutions also open to this idea of investing, or probably open credit facilities to people that probably have got ideas or want to go into this investment, so to say?
Yeah, there's certain commercial banks that are pretty focused on the renewable energy sector. I mean, some maybe not as much as others. It's actually almost a niche thing. You have to understand it. So the normal commercial banking models won't work in the renewable energy sector. If you're deploying mini grid somewhere, you're not expecting your money back like some cash cow if you were doing fast moving consumer goods, for instance. So they have to think outside the box, and there has to be what I would say is green financing. So we're getting there little by little. And as they're seeing more and more exciting stuff, business plans that speak to them, they're starting to understand. REAN engages with them and say, look, this is what you might need to do. Try and think of innovative ways to make sure that these people realize the dream to electrify Nigeria, essentially.
And obviously, you mentioned green and finance. Have you people also talk about green bonds, probably with investors out of Nigeria, not necessarily Nigeria, probably um, governments outside Nigeria and investors themselves.
Yeah.
Is an idea you've talked about?
Oh, 100%. I mean, we've been holding these talks, as I say, which I keep mentioning the bill because it has to cover everything: financial, regulatory, technical, and all the rest of it. So under the financial part, engaging with stakeholders, that what's the best way to go about putting things in place. Part of it is green bonds, and a bank has already, they've released like what, 15 billion in green bonds. They were the first to do it. So there's stuff going on in the capital market to try and do. There's climate finance accelerator. There's various initiatives. I'm not sure whether I can say the name on your show because I'm not
Oh, you
plugging
can.
any
You can.
specific bank or anything.
Yeah, you
But
can. That's all right. We'll
yeah,
just approach
so
them
yeah,
for an
there's
advert later.
Sterling Bank is pretty, yeah, Sterling Bank is pretty committed to the renewable energy space. So they support a lot of developers to try and deploy these solutions. So Axis Bank released the bonds. So people are talking green more and more, and sustainability, and trying to find how we can all work together to make sure that there's investment into the sector.
I can't wait for this renewable energy bill to obviously get to the Senate, pass it, and get signed by
Yeah,
whoever the sitting president is at some point, because it obviously will have to
yeah,
take into account, just like we said, the risks themselves, the sovereignty guarantee, security, cost of
exactly.
equipment,
Secure.
and all that. So I can't wait for it to
Absolutely.
come out. Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's
Local content. That's
local
big.
content and what have you. And I'm really looking forward to it. And obviously, when that renewable energy bill comes out, and we know it's already out and it's
Mhm.
been signed by the president, whoever that would be, we would like to also bring you back
Yeah,
and to talk about it.
that
To
would
talk
be
about the
good.
next plan. Our next line of action, because it's
Absolutely.
indeed. If we talk about renewable energy, we probably will talk from now till tomorrow, because it's so, uh, obviously
Exactly.
from is very of various importance to Nigeria itself, because it's big, it's big.
Yeah.
So now let's put renewable energy back in the back burner now and move to the other passion, which is surprisingly football.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes.
football.
And
I
I'm in
mean,
a good space as we speak.
and like I said at the beginning of this show, before we started, backstage, I said I was going to rub it in, and 6-1 today. Where did you go wrong
I'm
with you
sorry,
United
but
people
can we just
today?
talk about Villa Park first?
No,
The
we're not
only
going to
thing
talk about Villa.
sweeter
We're going to
today
talk about
is to
yours.
hear
We're going
it.
to talk about Man
We're talking
United
about
first.
Villa Park
6-1.
first.
I
I mean,
mean,
that's sweet, sweet.
especially coming from your former manager. I mean, Jose Mourinho must probably be gloating having a cup of not a cup of wine, probably a bottle of wine at this moment. With his legs, crossed and thinking, yes, I got one over that. And again, Aston Villa beating Liverpool 7-2. What a day today!
Yeah, it's been weird. I mean,
Very weird.
to be honest, I think that's the most painful thing that we've
Hmm.
lost to Jose Mourinho. You can imagine the headlines after
Tomorrow.
this, and he's going to give us some nugget or the other that's going to be a meme forever. So it's painful, but I mean, I'm getting over it because Villa Park is making my night, making my night. Plus, also, Marshall should not have been sent off. Once he was sent off, the game just kind of died.
In a way, because the talk of the town and the joke of the town is always uh, Bruno Fernandes. There's no game
Oh,
Man United play without a penalty given
that
to
is,
them. And obviously, you had the chance when it started. I mean, in the first minute, about
yeah.
26 seconds into the game, you had a penalty, and of course, Bruno scored that
Yep.
goal. And then, what do you think is wrong with Man United this season? Is it a lack of players? Is it a lack of quality players? Is it the coaching itself, or probably the board?
Ah, that's it. I think it's not a one season problem. We've been
Mm,
facing this not investing properly in the transfer market for years. We've been
mm,
shouting about Jadon Sancho for the last God knows how long. The window's about to close. They said his £100 million pounds were supposed to pay for him. And then is he going to solve our problem? Today was
mm,
not a striker problem. It was a defender problem. We
mm.
still don't have that dream team of a Vidic and a Rio kind of thing that or Yap Stam that that the back is sure, and then you're thinking Van der Sar and all those kind of people that you literally know that ball's not going in. We don't have that, so that needs to be sorted out. Do I think Ole is a problem? Time will tell. The jury's still out. I think he's still going to enjoy that old boys and legend factor. How many people were there that would be willing to take the job at the time? I don't know. But I don't think he's been supported in the transfer market. I think
Mm.
the Glazers have much to answer for.
The Glazers have much to answer for. We'll see how
Yes.
that goes. But like I said, I was going to rub it in
Precisely.
today, 6-1. Yeah, and I've succeeded in rubbing that in. Although we had a very brilliant discussion today about renewable energy. It's so nice having you, Lande, on the show, and I hope you do
Thanks
join
very
us
much.
once more when this is when the bill is signed, and two, when things improve for Man United. I hope you join us again.
Oh, well, you had to put that in. We'll be back. We'll be back.
We'll be back. We'll be back. Hopefully,
Cavani
you
is
would
coming.
be.
We'll be back.
Yeah. To Cavani.
Yeah,
Thank you so much,
he's
Landy,
coming.
for coming on the show. It's been
Thank
lovely
you.
talking
It
to
was
you
nice.
today. Brilliant discussion, and I do wish you and your members and REAN all the best. Like I said, we're looking forward to that renewable
Thanks
energy
very much.
bill and to set the ball rolling. And all the very best to you guys. And we will obviously be keeping an eye out for what you are doing. And from time to time, we probably will be inviting you to talk more about your programs and about the future. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
joining us.
Thanks very much for having me. It was a nice chat.
Thank you. So that's Lande Abudu, who is the Executive Secretary General of the Renewable Energy Association of Nigeria, REAN. We've talked so much about renewable energy, and to be honest with you, I've been thoroughly educated today because one seems to think renewable energy is just all about solar panels and inverters and what have you, but there's more to that, and it's been wonderful having a chat with her today to talk about. how this is developing in Nigeria and indeed in Africa. So before I go, before we leave it for today, I just want to say a big thank you to everyone that's made comments today on the show. Bright, Sandra, Sunny, Nora, Mick, and quite a lot of you. Thank you for the comments. Sorry if I don't mention your name, we just ran out of time. And my special thanks go to Lande Abudu for coming on the show today, for talking to us about renewable energy, and indeed the magic three letters word that's oil in Nigeria. So thank you for joining us on the show. Don't forget to like the show, follow or subscribe to the show if you're watching for the first time, or if you've been watching all along. And please press the notification bell, so when we load new videos and this chat, so you can be notified and obviously go back to watch it. Today we've had an interesting show. Next week is another interesting time, but before then, you take care of yourself, and so much dangers around the world. Be safe out there. Take care of yourself and have a brilliant week. Thank you.